Welcome back. It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. On the surface, there was nothing to link Leah Betts and Tony Tucker during their brief lives. Leah was a bright, hard-working and popular student from a loving home. Tucker was a villain who ran a security business with links to the underworld. But their deaths, both related to ecstasy, dramatically exposed the corrupting influence of the illegal drugs industry. They opened the door to a sophisticated multi-million-pound empire which controlled supply in countless clubs and pubs across Essex. It was a business which rewarded its big players with sports cars and luxury hotels, and its victims, like Leah, with a painful death. Only when Tucker fell out with his suppliers did he suffer his own violent death. Within weeks of Tucker, Tate and Rolf's bodies being found in a country lane, police were linking their deaths with the search for the suppliers of the drug that killed Leah on her 18th birthday. At first, the trio's drugs operation seemed to be small scale, but police soon discovered their links to a much larger web of suppliers. Tucker, they learned, was a drugs wholesaler, assisted by Tate and Rolf. He bought large quantities of amphetamines, ecstasy and cannabis and sold them on to dealers. There were massive profits in buying at cost price and selling on at near retail price. A £2 ecstasy pill could fetch £15 in a nightclub. For the middleman, there was also less risk of arrest. But it was Tucker's lucrative sideline that linked him to Leah's death. He would sell rights to certain dealers to work from clubs where he had a security interest. Raquel's nightclub in Basildon, where the ecstasy pill that killed Leah was bought, was one. A police source told the Mail, quote, "Tucker and his team didn't put pills directly into the mouths of young clubbers, but by allowing dealers to operate in return for a fee, it made them as guilty as if he had passed them on personally." Tucker's bank balance was further buoyed by his role as boxer Nigel Benn's minder and security man. It is estimated his dual operation was providing him with more than £7,000 a month. 3 years ago, business was booming enough for Tucker to afford the black Porsche registered TT9, which became his trademark, and a £250,000 home in Fobbing, Essex. Police were originally met with a wall of silence from both the dead men's associates and underworld figures. But working with customs officers, they discovered that one of the trio's associates was a man named Mickey the Pilot. The information proved crucial. Mickey the Pilot, whose real name is Michael Steele, emerged as one of the men with everything to gain from both Tate, Rolf and Tucker's deaths. Tucker had planned to buy a major amount of drugs from Steele, but it was a fateful contact that was to end in a blood-splattered Range Rover in December 1995. After one consignment was received, Tate and Tucker approached a number of financial backers to raise money for a second and much larger batch of drugs. They canvassed underworld figures for financial support and collected £70,000 before asking Steele for the next batch. The consignment proved to be the catalyst that sparked their deaths. The drugs, claimed a furious Tucker and Tate, were of poor quality, and having dumped them in an Essex lake, they demanded their money back. Steele refused, and as the threats between the two gangs escalated, Tucker's associate Tate began to get dangerously out of control. Just before he died, he rang the London Pizza Company in Basildon and demanded a 12-inch pizza sliced into 6 with different toppings on each slice. He simply wanted cheese, you cunt. Told that it couldn't be done, he appeared in person 10 minutes later and attacked 23-year-old pizza worker Roger Ryle, smashing his face into a glass plate and throwing a till across the room. Tate's reputation was sufficiently well known that the terrified Ryle refused to press charges, but the criminals saw it as the sort of behaviour which might expose them all. With murder in mind, Steele and his friend Jack Womes suggested meeting Tate, Tucker and Rolfe to discuss another deal which might appease them. The man who drove Steele and Womes to the rendezvous, who later turned informer, subsequently told police how he received a mobile phone call to return to the same spot on a farm track at Rettendon, Essex to collect them. Only then did he realise it had been a ploy to kill the three men. As the killers took off their bloodied surgical gloves and prepared to dispose of the shotgun, he heard Steele boast, quote, "They won't mess with us anymore." He then listened as both men described shooting their targets at point-blank range. Police estimated the triple killing had taken less than 3 seconds. Tony Tucker, sitting in the front passenger seat, still had his mobile phone cradled between his thighs. Pat Tate was slumped against a window in the rear seat. He was not carrying his trademark pistol, suggesting he had felt comfortable about the meeting. The legacy of the deaths will see an estimated £300,000 spent on giving the informant and his family fresh identities and police protection until they can melt into a new existence hundreds of miles from Essex. Last night, the cost was defended by Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley, who conducted the murder inquiry. Quote, "If that's the sort of money that sees drug-running killers off the streets, then it might ultimately give young people like Leah Betts a better chance." The following newspaper article is from the 21st of the 1st, 1998, with the headline, "Trial lays bare murky and ruthless world of the dealers in death." 2 ruthless hitmen were jailed for life at the Old Bailey yesterday for the underworld executions of 3 drug barons on a remote Essex farm track. Michael Steele, 55, and Jack Womes, 36, both protested their innocence from the dock, as Mr. Justice Hidden told them, "You are responsible for taking away the lives of your victims in a violent and summary way. They had crossed your path and you showed them no mercy. The fact they were criminals involved in drug trading meant they were subject to criminal law, but not to their lives being ended in the way you chose. There is about these killings a hard and ruthless criminal edge. You are each dangerous men who have not the slightest compunction in resorting to extreme violence when necessary." Steele, who likened himself to the angel of death in getting rid of the sort of people you would not want around, and his henchman Womes had fired 8 shots at close range into the heads of the trio as they waited in their Range Rover on the track in Rettendon in December 1995. Their victims, Patrick Tate, 37, Anthony Tucker, 38, and Craig Rolfe, 26, all from Essex, were killed with cold and merciless efficiency during a festering row over a smuggled shipment of poor quality cannabis. As the jury of 8 women and 4 men returned unanimous guilty verdicts to the murder charges, Womes, a self-employed mechanic from Brockford, Suffolk, and Steele, a self-employed engineer from Clacton-on-Sea, Essex, shook their heads. When they were sentenced, they again protested their innocence. Mr. Justice Hidden recommended they serve a minimum of 15 years. The jury had spent 5 days deliberating at the end of a trial which lasted more than 4 months and cost an estimated £1.5 million. Steele and Womes, along with Peter Corey, 45, also from Clacton, were also convicted of conspiring with others to import cannabis into the UK in 1995. Sentence on that charge was adjourned. It was the only charge which Corey faced, and he was remanded for reports. Andrew Munday QC, prosecuting, had told the trial when it opened, quote, "Dealing in drugs is not an honourable trade. It is often the province of the double cross, the sting and the double deal. They are all stock in trade for those who deal in drugs." If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.